Hi, everybody. It's Rayana Starr with the Unstoppable Real Estate Investor podcast. And joining me today is Dr. Felicia Smith. Am I saying it right, Felicia?
Yes.
Yeah. And she's someone I've known from being in my group, but from my Fortune Builders days. And I'm just thrilled that she's accepted my invitation to be our member that we're spotlighting today. On Fridays at noon in our group, Unstoppable Real Estate Investor, we showcase where we spotlight a member in the community. And then on Wednesdays, we're learning from the top 5 percenters, the superstars in the industry. So these Friday meetings are great for people that are up and coming, showing how the struggle is real. It's an opportunity to get a little support and coaching and take things to the next level. So thank you so much, Dr. Felicia Smith, for joining us. Can I just call you Felicia?
Please, you're welcome.
All right, so I'm just curious. I'm just going to pull us up on my cell phone so I can see who's joining us and be in the chat. There we go. So I'm just curious, Felicia. All right, so Rachel, Naomi, Exo, Brad Pettis are watching us. Let us know you're here and say hi. So Felicia, where's the doctor come from? Talk a little bit about what you were doing in your life before real estate, or are you still doing those things? So tell us a little bit about you pre-real estate investor.
Okay, I started teaching in 1987. And before that, I was a secretary. I was also a bus driver for a school district.
Wow.
Paraprofessional. So I've done all of the trades in education as a teacher for 12 years. And the rest of the years of the 37 years of my experience is administrative years as assistant principal and then district level experience. So I had my bachelor's. You have to have that to teach. Then I got my master's, then my specialist, and then my doctorate. And that's it. I'm not going to get a real estate license or anything like that. My husband got his doctorate and he decided to get his real estate license. And so he's waiting on it to come in the mail now. And I tell him I am done.
You already passed the test and everything?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what are you a doctor in? Education?
Yes, educational leadership, administration. Yes.
Wow. And what's his doctorate in?
Same thing.
Okay. Is that how
he's a retired teacher now? He's a retired teacher, and I'm trying to retire, hopefully in June.
Okay. And is that how you guys met, is on the job?
Oh, no. My husband is also a minister. And so we met in Russellville. I live in Fort Smith, but we met in Russellville at a church. A friend of mine introduced me to him. I was not interested in him. I did not know he'd come from a path of ministers. And if I would have known, I wouldn't have married him. And so I told him he tricked me. But God knew, if I knew, I was not going to marry him. And he's also has.
How long have you been married?
We've been married for, it would be 30 years in October. And we got married 2 months after we met. And so that was pretty interesting too. And we're still together, but he was an engineer at a nuclear plant when I met him. So he has an engineering degree.
Wow. Okay.
Then he met me and he fell in love with teaching.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So tell me a little bit about your transition into real estate investing. You and your husband did that together?
That's correct. We did that together. We did it through Fortune Builders. We started through Fortune Builders, and the interest came in. He found out. Okay.
What was the transition? Like, you're going along, your teacher, she was in nuclear engineering, got into teaching stuff, but what was it that got you guys thinking we want to invest in real estate? Before you started with Fortune Builders, what was it that helped you make that decision?
Well, actually, that decision happened when he was telling me about a meeting that was going to happen here in Northwest Arkansas, and it was through Fortune Builders. But I've always had an interest in real estate. Even in my educational leadership program, we had a facilities class. And then I learned it's not about the beauty of it. You got to know about your floors, your lighting, all of those different items. So that has helped me to understand this investment side of it too. And so then we just joined Fortune Builders.
Yeah, your sound is distorting.
I'm sorry.
So.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. Okay, I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. It's fine now. I think you just have to stay closer. So then you heard the ad for Fortune Builders. You went to the 1 day and then the 3 day, and you decided to sign up. So tell me a little bit about your real estate investment journey thus far. How long ago was that?
That was July 2021. And so I've been studying. I did the coursework. I did the boot camp, couple of boot camps. And then I just been studying, working and networking in Jade's networking program, or his presentations that he does every Wednesdays and Saturdays have really helped. That's how I got to know you. And I've also have won a course. I was watching Nathan Payne one day and he did the spinning wheel and my name popped up for a course for 4 months. And then Jerry Norton has allowed me to do 8 weeks of a coursework with him. So I'm just getting into those different things, talking to people, networking, learning more about different aspects of it, the buyers, the lender side and what have you. And with me being an educator, it was just like all over the place. And so I need, to be about here. I need, segments. I need segments to help me out, So that's why I'm into it. And it's therapeutic for me also to be on calls, to be on training, to study,
So that is the focus right now for you, is education and learning about the business?
That was the focus. The focus now is to jump in and learn about the action part of it.
Okay, so have you guys done any deals yet, or are you just starting to ease into the application part?
I did a couple of, did 2 contracts. And one, it was because the son had gotten involved with the father. It was the father's property and the son had gotten his name on it. So then he didn't believe in the investment side of it. So they got a realtor. And so then on the other hand of it, the other deal that I had was a house with extra property. And we were going to purchase it. But then when we read the inspection report, it was so much wrong with it that we starting off really didn't need to go that route.
So you put 2 under contract, but didn't follow through to the end. They were both contracts you didn't complete a deal with.
Right. That's okay. Correct.
All right. Yeah. So we haven't done any deals yet, and we're focused on education. It's been like a year and a half.
Right.
And you're both feeling confident about moving forward. Your husband's gotten a real estate license. What's your focus going to be? How are you guys going about transitioning from education into application?
Well, the focus is going to be wholesaling to get some funds for the business. I've already got it organized.
Your
for a big business, with our LLCs here. Okay, I am so sorry, but okay.
There you go. Try it now.
Okay. So we have gotten in, I have organized the business to like where we have the bank account, the LLCs, everything is in place for us to be able to do deals. So I told my husband, we're going to organize it as if the business was big, so that when it becomes big, everything would just fall into place without shocking us. So we're looking to wholesaling and also buy and hold right now.
Okay. So when you talk about getting things set up and organized for the business in order to scale, what specifically are you doing to achieve that?
I have been talking to buyers. I have been reaching out to agents. So to get services for them, from them, and then also driving for dollars. And then using software to find houses that may be pre-foreclosure.
Okay, and there are other, say that again.
Making cold calls.
Okay. So those are all marketing activities in the business.
Mhm.
Those are all ways to just do the fundamentals. Scaling a business, which I would say you guys aren't quite ready for that. It's just getting into the business and starting to take action. But scaling a business means you are preparing to grow and level up in magnitude and with momentum, and that you've got a CRM, a database software that can handle you growing from where you are now to being able to do hundreds of deals if you want to, that you have an auto dialer like Mojo Dialer or Batch Dialer, that you have a lead source that you're systematic around. It also means that you are scaling by leveraging virtual assistants and a team to do a lot of the work for you. I would say you guys aren't quite there yet. Right now, it's you two need to master the skills of the fundamentals. And
Yeah.
wholesaling is a good place to start. And what a lot of people do is they start there, but I can't stress enough the importance of the end game on a wholesale is the buyer. So what we use is a term called reverse wholesaling, which really is ridiculous if you think about it, because it really should be the way everybody approaches wholesaling. And that is you start with the buyer first. And so when people have a list of 400 buyers on their list that they don't even know, to me, that's not a credible buyer's list. A buyer's list is people that you put on a list that you have a relationship with, and you know what their buying criteria is, and they know who you are, and they want you to send them deals. So a lot of people will buy a list on Batch for buyers, or they'll go into Facebook groups and just start grabbing names and put them on a spreadsheet. That is not building a buyer's list. Building a buyer's list is when you're networking in one of JJ's groups. It's the people in those groups that you want to build relationships with, the movers and shakers, the people that are doing deals. Those are the people you want to be reaching out to, strategic networking, and saying, hey, I'm starting my wholesaling. I'd really love to, find out, where are you looking for deals? What exactly are you looking for? To actually have a conversation and develop a relationship with those people. I have one of my clients I've been working with for 2.5 years. He predominantly has 2 or 3 buyers, and he's built a portfolio of 26 rentals and done too many wholesale count. And he doesn't have a huge buyers list, but he has buyers that buy, and they know him and he knows them. So that's the first piece of advice, is don't just build a fake buyers list. And for all of you listening, love JC, Carlos, Nina, Lori, Rachel, Brad, anybody else who's logged in and is listening or listening to the recording. Building a buyers list is about building real relationships with real estate investors who know who you are. You've had some kind of communication directly with them, a conversation, a text, an email. You've gone back and forth. You know what markets they're looking, what they're looking for, and they have said, yes, I would love to get put on your buyer list. That's a buyer. Okay. Any questions?
Well, I will tell you this. I had a miracle to happen last night where I reached out to this guy from REI Revolution, and he has different buyers. He said, my job is to help you he said, so submit me some deals. And so now that's where I'm going. And I'm gonna give it to him. He said, we work in your state. He said,
We can't hear you.
he
We can't hear you.
said, I will work also in Florida. I'm looking at Central. I don't know what's going on here.
Felicia, stop. We can't hear you. You're breaking up. You're freezing. So let's try this again. I don't want to miss anything you said.
I'm gonna try to relocate.
Okay.
Maybe you
Yeah, I
can
think
hear
there's
me.
bad
And
connection.
then
Yeah.
okay, hopefully this will be better.
Yeah, it sounds better. Could you repeat what you said?
Yes, I said as of last night, I talked to a guy, and this is a miracle thing that has happened.
Yeah.
He's connected to a lot of buyers, and he's with the sub-2 community. And he told me, he said, it is my job now to help you to get that feeling, to know and he's gonna also send me some contracts on certain things that you gotta check with sub-2 on some things. But anyway, a miracle has happened, so I'm excited.
Okay, and we're still not quite there on the connection, but we'll just keep proceeding ahead. So
Okay.
who that guy is he's a dispo wholesaler. So what you're doing is you're the acquisition wholesaler. You with me, Felicia?
Yes, I am.
You're the acquisition wholesaler and doing the initial marketing of finding properties. And then you're going to take them to him and he's going to find the buyers for you. And you're going to your wholesale fee with him. So you're the acquisition wholesaler. He's the dispo wholesaler because he's the one who's going to find the buyer and dispose of and, dispose of the wholesale for you. And so you'll split your wholesale fee with him, but that's a great way to tap into two buyers. That's it. And if you do enough of those, you leverage enough of those dispo wholesalers, even though you're splitting, you're leveraging their network of buyers. So that is totally a blessing. That's a really great thing yeah. And you want to have some of your own buyers. So the low-hanging fruit is all the people you're meeting in his groups, and whenever you're networking is go one step further with your networking and start to follow up with people. And it doesn't have to be crazy. Every time you're in one of his Saturday or Wednesday meetings, just, figure out 1 or 2 or 3 people in each meeting that you're in that you'd like to connect with and private chat them and say, hey, I'd love to connect with you. I'm building my buyers list. I'd love, I'm wholesaling, and every week, if you just worked on building your buyers list, like for an hour every week, but reaching out to real people that to build those relationships and take them a little further than just people seeing each other on a screen, like in the breakout rooms, when JJ puts everybody into breakout rooms, that is a great time. You have a captive audience. That is those are your people. Those are the people to find out, hey, are there any buyers in here? Okay.
Okay.
There's one strategy for building your buyers list. And then as far as marketing and as far as, have you guys set up a system yet, a schedule of how you're going about marketing and generating leads?
I know how to do it. I've done it in the past, but I haven't restarted that.
Okay. So what have you done in the past?
In the past, I've used Facebook and Instagram, and on Facebook, I can schedule when they go out. So I love that. And I just haven't done it in a while.
What do you mean schedule what when it goes up?
Okay, if you go into the business side of Facebook, you can go in that suite and you can schedule your ads.
So you're doing Facebook ads.
I'm doing what? I'm sorry.
You're doing Facebook ads?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the ads? What's the purpose of the ads? To get people to reach out to you, to call you, to what are the?
Just to connect per se right now. Yeah, just to
So are you paying for ads?
no.
Okay. So those are not ads. You're just making
Okay.
friend requests and connection requests.
No, I'm actually posting.
Okay. So you're got you. Okay. And that's social media. I would put that under the networking category. And
Okay.
but that isn't lead generation.
Okay.
Okay, so lead generation is it's very concentrated effort of either you're calling, you're texting, or you're emailing in volume for a concentrate period of time where you are dialing for dollars. You are texting, it's a grind, it's grunt work, it's volume, it's doing the numbers, it is buying a list, having it skip traced, or working an agent outreach campaign, and you are aggressively in volume reaching a lot of people, a lot of sellers, and getting on the phone with sellers and asking them, if they're, finding out if they're a motivated seller. And when you're on a phone call with a seller, you're looking at 4 criteria. Are they motivated? Meaning, do they want to sell fast? You're asking about the condition of the property. You're also getting price, and then also you're getting their time frame. So marketing and lead generation is going to be the next step for you. Have you and your husband talked about how you're going to set that up?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
So that's the thing to add to our list.
Yeah, because if you're not, this is the area where a lot of newer investors get a little overwhelmed, or they just don't take enough action. And like what you're doing on social media is passive. It's like you're putting the word out there, but you also want to engage in an active campaign, something that you are outreaching. A passive campaign is that you put the word out there and you're waiting for people to reach out to you. But if you really want to be successful in the business, you need to do both. You need to be outreaching, and you are pursuing, you are reaching out, you are calling, you are texting, you are emailing, and you're doing it on a consistent basis for, a consistent amount of time every day, every week, and it is part of your schedule. Any questions about that, or how to do it, or what you need in order to do it?
What would I need in order to do it?
Okay. So you might want to take notes. Is eventually what you want to do is scale to the point where you're hiring VAs to do a lot of this for you. But I recommend, because you and your husband are new, that you guys do this. And where I would start with you and your husband is divide and conquer. Play to your strengths. Who's better at talking to people? Who's better at tracking numbers? Who's better at research? Who's better at, really analyzing a deal? Okay, so what goes into lead generation is, one, you've got to source seller leads. So you can either do that with an agent outreach campaign where you are reaching out to real estate agents because they're dealing with sellers that are motivated to sell. Or you're reaching out to sellers directly. And how do you do that? Well, you could do FSBO, for sale by owners. You can do Facebook Marketplace. You could do a lot of for sale by owner sites. You could do Zillow. You could use Privy. Or you could be buying lists from like a batch leads list service. That batch leads is what it's the most popular one, where you are putting into batch leads the criteria. Maybe you're wanting to pull up a list of vacant property owners that have a lot of high equity. That's the nice thing about a lead list service is you can get very specific in the criteria of the type of owner that you want to be reaching. And then you get that list. And then the next step is you've got to clean it up, because there might be a lot of wrong numbers or inaccurate information. And the way you clean it up is with a skip tracing service. Cheap is not better. And skip tracing is where you're going to spend your money. Your data and your skip tracing is where you're going to spend money. But it's going to save you money and time in the long run. So what skip tracing is it's a detective service to find out if all the information on that list is accurate. They're researching that list to make sure those names, those phone numbers, those addresses are accurate. And even when you run a list through a skip tracing service, you're still going to end up with some wrong numbers or disconnects, but skip tracing reduces the likelihood of that. So you're not wasting your money on a bad list. Okay. Questions about sourcing the seller list before I move on to the next piece?
Okay, and I do have Privy. I used to use RealFlow.
Okay, Privy blows RealFlow away. So Privy is a great, and no service is perfect. Like the MLS multiple listing service is on market. That's what on market means, that a property has been listed by a real estate agent and put it on the market. The market is MLS. Off market is anything that is not listed on the MLS. For sale by owners, pulling a list from batch leads of like tired landlords with high equity. They're not on the market. You don't even know if they want to sell. You're just going to reach out to them, a cold outreach, to see if you can get them interested in selling to you. Okay, so off market is anything that is not on the MLS. Privy is nice. It's a great service because, and by the way, everybody, I am doing a special edition next week for the podcast. I will have the noon podcast as I always do. And next week I'll be talking to Matt Cavigoni. It's an Italian name at noon, like for our regular scheduled podcast. But then at 1 p.m. right after that, I'm going to be interviewing one of the owners of Privy, Benson Juarez. And so be on that 1 p.m. next week, 1 p.m. Eastern, next Wednesday, the 15th. You want to join us at 1 p.m. for that. So Privy, what they do is they source data from a lot of sources, including MLS data, but they're sourcing from a lot of different lists. So it's a very comprehensive service that gives you a lot of information. So I'd recommend Privy for your sourcing for seller leads. Okay. And then the next step is actually, how are you going to call them? Well, calling them on your cell phone is going to be torture, because you're not going to be able to dial quickly. It's about volume, because you're going to have a lot of no answers, some wrong numbers. You're going to have people that aren't interested. It is a grind, and most people don't succeed at lead gen because they're not willing to just do the boring work. They're not willing to do the boring work and do it often enough and long enough to master their craft. And then you hire a team of VAs to delegate that to. So you and your husband are going to need to figure out how you're going to divide and conquer, but you got to be willing to get on the phone and talk to sellers. Then there's, what are you going to say to them? So having that skill, and there are scripts on the Fortune Builder site that you can use for that. And if you trained with Jerry Norton, who's a freaking rock star, and Nathan Payne, they're going to have scripts for you too. So, all right. So there is sourcing the data, and then there is how am I going to get to as many of them as quickly as possible and as painlessly as possible. So you need an auto dialer, like a batch dialer, Mojo dialer, call rail. Some of those are, what they're doing is the machine is dialing all these numbers until they get to a live human being, and then you get on the phone. So it saves you a lot of time and effort doing all this dialing yourself. It's automatically dialing for you. And then when someone gets on the line, you get on the line and talk to them.
Okay.
Any questions so far? Should I keep going?
No.
All right.
That's,
Then the next step is what do you say, and being comfortable talking to a seller. And that's where having scripts, and this is another thing, like when you're networking in JJ's group or wherever, getting some buddies to role play with, like getting accountability buddies, other friends of yours from Fortune Builders or from JJ's community or my group, the Unstoppable Real Estate Investor. And just, are you willing to role play doing seller calls with me? Any questions about that?
no, not at all. I'm good.
Okay. Did I lose you? You look distracted.
No, you didn't.
Okay. And then once you get a seller on the phone, it's the 4 conditions: motivation, price, condition, and time frame.
Okay.
And then after that, it's, do you know how to analyze a deal? Do you know, you need to know the numbers. And Fortune Builders has a great training in their deal analysis part of the core curriculum that I would revisit and study it. And they've got the deal analyzer and the repair estimator that are basically the same tool. They're just 2 different sheets in an Excel spreadsheet where all the formulas are already, but you can go to Bigger Pockets and they have analyzer tools as well. So that's which one of you between your husband and you are more analytical, which one is more about the numbers, is who's going to do the lead gen, who's going to do the analyzing deals.
Okay.
And then it's, if the deal makes sense and the numbers make sense, then it's making an offer and learning those skills, having a purchase and sale agreement and understanding, if you're going to be wholesaling, making sure there's an assignment clause in there. Be a bummer to get a contract signed and then find out in the small print that you can't assign that contract. Okay. So these are the steps, and it starts with building that buyer's list of people, pulling data to find the owners.
Okay.
Having a dialer to help save you time so you can plow through the numbers, having a script and practicing and feeling confident about talking to a seller. And it's about finding out if it's a motivated seller. So as a new real estate investor, what I'd say is approach it more like you're disqualifying people. Because as a new investor, when you're new in any skill, you're trying to turn apples into oranges. You see everything as an orange, when what you need to do is just be looking and realizing it's a numbers game. I'm going to be plowing through a lot of numbers and making a lot of calls before I find someone that is interested. And it's becoming rejection proof. It's being willing to do the boring grind and grunt work in order to practice your skill to master it.
Okay.
So what do you think about all that? I know it's a lot of work. Where are you going to start?
It's things that I'm familiar with. So what I need to do is just get a dollar and then get busy.
Get a dollar and then get busy? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to need to talk to my husband, and we're going to find our pros and cons. And then I'm going to, like I said, purchase the dollar. and then use Privy to generate my list and skip trace it. And then we go with the dial.
Okay. Then
And then after that,
the
talk
next-
to the people, of course, and hopefully to get a contract. And I also need to get DocuSign for the contract so they can be signed virtually.
yeah. And then scheduling times that you're going to call. And what you need to do is you get a process set up, a system set up, so that when you sit down and you turn Batch Dialer on or Mojo or Call Rail, whichever one you use, that's what you're focused on. There's no busy work. You're not getting ready to, and that takes you 30 minutes. Like when you sit down and you schedule yourself for, say, from 5 to 7 in the evening to dial for dollars, to talk to sellers, that is what you are focused on, nothing else.
Okay, got it.
And that's going to be the hardest part of all this. So what I recommend is start with small chunks of time.
Okay.
Just start with 30-minute chunks of time, but not only 30 minutes, like break it down. So maybe you do 30 minutes of dialing at 5 p.m. because you're working still. Okay, so you're going to do 30 minutes. And you do this, use cues in your environment. So let's say you get home from work. Before you get to relax or have dinner or do anything, you go into your office at home and you have to dial for dollars for 30 minutes or even for an hour, to like you leverage periods, cues, so that in order to get that reward of dinner or the time off at night, you don't come home and relax and then go, okay, now I've got to go, start to look at the times where your energy is going to be the best for this and start small. All right, let's see an hour. If I can just do an hour or 30 minutes and just for the first time, just get my feet wet and see what this is about. Okay, because it is boring. It's a grind. It's grunt. So you're not going to want to do it. That's why a lot of people don't. But you and your husband, you or your husband, or both of you have to get good at this skill, because there's going to come a point where you don't want to do it anymore, and you can afford to hire a virtual assistant who does it for you. And you need to know what success looks like in your lead generation in order to lead that VA.
Okay, that makes sense.
So don't mean to be a wet blanket, but I really want to prepare you for what you're stepping into as you get ready to go from education into implementation. Any questions or comments or concerns about anything?
No, I think I'm good. I just gotta, like I said, get into action on that side of it.
Yeah, because without lead gen and without making offers, you're not going to get deals.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, that's if you're wholesaling. And wholesalers are the ones doing the lead gen. And the people buying from wholesalers, that they're using wholesalers to find the deals for them. Now, if you guys have a goal to buy and hold, that's a different story. You can be looking for those yourself, or if you're part of a community like my community or JJ's community or Sub 2, or if you're not in Sub 2, Creative Finance with Pace Morby is his free group. That's where you can leverage social media like you're doing with your posts and let people know what you're looking for that you want to buy and hold. Okay. Hey, we're looking for single family residence in blah, 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 Northwest Arkansas. We're looking for something at, 100K, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and whatever. Or we're looking for a duplex in, Columbus, Ohio, or, whatever it is, bring us your deals. So that can be another way to source deals, but it's again, passive. You're waiting for someone to do something to come to you. You want to leverage both an active campaign where you're doing the outreach and a passive campaign where it's coming in. either
Okay.
ad or a post.
All right. I
Okay.
appreciate your
Yeah.
help.
And so when are you guys planning on starting your lead generation?
Well, this weekend for me, but I'm gonna talk to him.
I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, right now, don't let all these things you've got to do stop you. You could start really very simply right now, Felicia, just to get the feel of calling with
Mhm.
doing a Facebook marketplace campaign. Just
Okay.
Facebook and Craigslist and looking at what's for sale there and doing and outreaching to them. You could do a for sale by owner campaign. There's a whole bunch of for sale by owner websites. You just Google for sale by owner websites, and there's all kinds of them. Fizbo.com, for sale by owner spelled out.com, and some version of that. And I would create a little spreadsheet of all the off-market websites, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, you know, well, Privy is an application that can give you access to all that. But depending on your budget, and if you want to get started as soon as this weekend, you don't need any of that stuff. If all you want to do is just get your feet wet with you and your cell phone and getting on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and just start looking for, you know, sellers and calling them or texting them or DMing them and
Okay.
just do that for an hour and see what comes of it. I had a client that did a for sale by owner out. I mean a Facebook marketplace outreach. She was on there looking around, and she discovered that she was seeing a lot of properties that were owned by the same person that were being marketed for sale. It ended up being a portfolio of 40 properties. It ended up being like 83 doors. And
Wow.
she got under contract with them. And then the guy ended up being a total scumbag. And they just started, you know, the deal didn't end up going through. But she found that on Facebook Marketplace, got it under contract. They did their due diligence. They did their analysis. And then the guy kept doing the switch and bait. They had agreed on one price, and then they found out that 5 of the properties that had started to be, you know, there was just a bunch of problems to solve, which they were doing. But then the guy got greedy and wanted more money, even though they were already under contract. And it just wasn't, it turned out to not. Now, deals like that are complicated because it involves a lot of properties. But the point of this is she found that on Facebook Marketplace. Okay. So
Okay.
what I would do if I were you, Felicia, to just make an easy transition, just sometimes if there's all these steps, we can procrastinate and not do them. Oh, wow, I've got to get my batch dialer. Oh, I've got to get Privy. Oh, I've got to get scripts. So it's just like, oh, there's all these things to do. And before you know it, a couple of weeks has gone by and you're dragging your feet. Anybody listening, you can jump on with your cell phone on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or any of these others and dial for dollars. You know, people can use so many excuses that the conditions aren't just perfect, and then they don't do anything. If you're hungry and you want to get a deal and make your first wholesale commission, then you know that's the way you're going to do it. You've got to be outreaching and an active outreach campaign of some sort.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. You've been in education mode. What has been the most valuable thing you've learned so far as a new real estate investor? Someone who hasn't done a deal yet, what is the thing that's been the most interesting thing that you've learned in your education that you're like, wow?
Well, there's 2 sides to this, I think. One is organization. You know, you gotta, like you were just going through the steps with me. Like I told you, it was all over the place for me. And then by networking and talking to people, then I start seeing where I should begin and go from there. Well, the second thing is knowing the material. You don't really have to know it, but like you said, you got to practice. And so watching people do it, and then me comping and doing the same thing to see if I come close, you know, That's things that I've learned. But as an educator, also when people have the curriculum, I wish the curriculums line up instead of just like here, 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 and you don't know which one to start with. And you just start with the one up here when they say, well, you should have started here. Well, there was no way of knowing that, you know. And you got to address people's learning styles, the visual learnings, the ones that's got to be into it, you know, doing it hands-on. And that's the kind of learner I am, which is kind of steady, or the ones that just can listen. When you present your programs, you got to present it to all of your learners.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You know, I'm certified in NLP, and that, yeah, a learning system that addresses all learning styles, because I'm very kinesthetic also and visual. Like the last thing I want to do is listen to audio tapes. Kill me. Like audible.
Yes.
The only way I'm ever going to read a book audible is when I'm on a cross-country trip or on a road trip. This is much rather read it visually, or I'd much rather watch a video or read material than listen to someone. So I totally get you on that. And yeah, the material has to be organized well. But now I've laid out some steps for you, and I've also laid out the quick down and dirty approach that you could take to get in there. And the hard part now is being disciplined in practicing it to master it. Because in this business, there's just a lot of little skills that you have to learn. And the only way you're going to do them is by doing them. You've got to learn lead generation. It's key. It's a money-making activity. You've got to learn how to talk to sellers confidently and negotiate. That's a money-making skill. You've got to learn how to make offers, money-making skill. You've got to learn how to close a deal, money-making skill. You've got to learn how to then turn over that property, flip it, either by assigning a contract to a buyer because you've got a bevy of buyers, or how to market that flip to sell it. So there are a lot of skills that's where new investors get stuck. They're just, you know, and all there is to do is ask someone to practice with you, or reach out to a coach like me, like, hey, I'm stuck. That's what coaches are there for, is to help you with the doing piece. Okay. So it sounds like you're ready. It sounds like you guys are ready. And also there's dealing with this as an educator, facing that you're going to stumble along and being willing to be a beginner, that you're going to, you know, you're going to fail forward, and that part is uncomfortable for all of us, like being willing to get on a call with a seller and stumble through it. And then where the value is after you hang up is, all right, what could I have done better? What did I do well? What do I need to do more of, less of? Always assessing, because then you get value out of your failures.
Okay. I think that's the point where I am afraid of failure, but I know I got to walk through some coals in order to get some shine. So, yeah.
I love that. I got to walk through some coals to get some shine. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it seems like you're ready, you know, and what you're doing is not easy, Felicia. Being new and being an educator. Now, okay, now I'm going to get in the lab, or I'm going to go for an internship or an apprenticeship. You know, that's why practicing some of these skills with some of your friends, like you and your husband, having time that you guys actually block off in your calendars where you role play. I've coached a lot of couples, and I had one couple, they were so cute because he was doing the marketing piece, the lead generation piece. And he was saying he was talking to a lot of people, but the numbers weren't adding up to me. So I challenged him and I said, all right, let's do some role playing. I want to hear how you're having conversations. And it was like, oh God, okay, we need some help here. So I coached him a little bit on that. And then I gave them an assignment. All right, you guys need to schedule some time every week. I want you to schedule an hour every day, 5 days a week, where you guys role play, and you role play seller calls. And I was really pleasantly surprised on our next coaching call that not only had they did it, but they had a lot of fun doing it. What they did is they literally sat back to back, leaning up against each other's backs, and they just got goofy. They had fun with it. They took all the fear out of it by making it fun, and he got more comfortable and more skilled at it. So rather than thinking you're going to get around to these things, start blocking them off as appointments on your calendar, or it's not going to happen.
That's what I'm going to have to do.
Yeah.
Because I have some experience of interviewing VAs too. It was some of us that was going to group together and get a VA.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would recommend first you get your own feet wet so that when you do hire VAs, you know what you're doing and you know
Sure.
whether they're doing the right thing. If you don't have any experience in it, you don't know how to lead them. And when you listen to their calls, you don't know where you need to tweak, so
Yeah.
But start small with small chunks of time and just get comfortable with it. And then the way to get value out of the clumsiness of it is after you get off a call where you're just like heart's beating and the guy tells you to F off, or you just feel like you stumbled through and you didn't know what you were doing, is okay, what did I do well on that call? What and then okay, what could I have done better? All right, next time, what will I do differently? That way, everything has value.
Mhm.
You see,
My plan is to record a couple of them at least to start and listen to
and
it
then
after.
listen to.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so I'm
Okay.
just curious, what's been your biggest hurdle or challenge to making this shift from being in education mode to implementation mode?
Having the knowing doing gap and fear. The
Say-
knowing doing gap, the gap of knowing, but yet doing. So it's a gap. It's a big gap right now.
Yeah, what I'm asking is specifically, what is the culprit for that gap? Like, for example, some people it's fear of failure. It's a mindset thing, and most likely it is a mindset thing. Would you agree?
That is, yes.
So what is it for you?
That is it. It's failure.
That is, okay,
Yeah, fear of failure.
Okay, so failure, people who are super successful have mastered failure. What? People who are super successful failed their way to success. They weren't afraid of looking stupid. They weren't afraid of making a mistake. They weren't afraid of, we don't have it quite right yet. They just kept doing it again and again and learning. And that's where that cycle of every time you stumble along or you make a mistake or it doesn't go well, the way to extract value to reduce your failure going forward is pause. Okay, let's analyze that. What worked? What didn't work? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What do I need to do differently next time so that I get over that hump? That's where failure has value. Okay. And then another way to help with the fear of failure is there's some really great motivational video series like Dr. Joe Dispenza, or there's a guy named Eddie Pinero, Pinero, not in real estate, that his brand is Your World Within. And he does these beautiful, amazing, he gets on these kind of ramps and realizations of these how to achieve, how to, motivational things is just, saturating your mindset with, I can do this and what it takes to succeed. And then just facing the fear of failure, facing it. And one way to do that is, it's an exercise I do, and it's an exercise I do with my clients, is just either dialogue with your husband or actually get open up a Google Doc or a journal and actually have a conversation with fear. Give fear, it's an entity, and you start to say, all right, what do you want me to know? What are you protecting me from? What, and just start to have a conversation with fear. And,
Okay.
and then the other exercise I have is chasing down the fear. Okay, well, what are you afraid of? So what failure are you afraid of? And then facing it. Okay, well, if I fail at that, then what? And then there's another failure to face. And then what? And then what? And it could be that you get to the point where you can't pay your bills, you lose your house, you're homeless. Then what? Can you survive it? And it's facing the absolute worst case scenario, realizing you can survive it. And it's basically debunking the fear and showing you that, okay, I wouldn't like those things. I don't want those things to happen, but I could survive. And then all there is to do is come back from that. There, oh, well, then I would, get a little minimum wage paying job, and I would start to save some money, and then I would get a little apartment, and then, and you can build back up. So chase the fear or dialogue with it can help you get a lot of value, because fear, other than instincts for survival fear, we get triggered to a lot of false fear in our lives. There's a lot of stuff that puts us in a state of fear that is not survival based. And then we use that as an excuse to not pursue our dreams and our goals. And so fear of failure is something to be challenged, because if you have the humility to be a beginner and you're willing to look stupid and have it be clunky and have it be uncomfortable, and you just get comfortable being uncomfortable, that's where the transformation happens. And it's worth it, because it gives you confidence. Start to get more confidence, then you start to get results, and so on. What do you think about that, Felicia?
I think that's pretty powerful advice. Thank you. I'm going to practice that.
All right. Now, do me a favor. I'd love for us to keep in touch, like DM me or email me. You have your ways to get a hold of me, and just progress check in with me. If you're needing a little, like, hey, I'm stuck here, Rayana, just reach out to me. Let me know. And one-on-one, if there's, places you're getting stuck and you need a little bit of guidance. Okay. And you also have a great community in my group and JJ's group, and the Jerry Norton's community and Nathan Payne's community. You've got a lot of support. So people want you to succeed. So if you were to jump up on a rooftop and you had a captive audience to give them advice based on your experience, based on like where you're at, what would your advice be?
If I was on a rooftop, I would tell listeners to make a map, have a map, the things that you learn, place that bundle on a map, put everything on a map, then keep connected to people so that you can know what connects together or what's next.
Like a mind map?
Kind of like a flow chart,
Flow chart. Okay.
Yes, if this happens, then do that. If this doesn't happen, then do this.
So you're creating a process for
a process. Yes.
Got
yes,
it.
I think that helps beginners big time. And that's what I've been looking for. Yeah. And I'm on REI Revolution too. And those are a lot of young people, and they are eating this real estate up alive. And it motivates me to do something, because I'm like, okay, they're doing this, let me do it. And they are so willing to help too.
So look, if you need help mapping out a journey, mapping it out, just reach out to me. We'll schedule a connection call one-on-one where you're not under pressure of being in front of a bunch of people on a podcast.
Okay.
And we can map out the journey for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Rayon.
Do that for you.
Okay.
Felicia, it's been such a pleasure. I know this isn't an easy seat to sit in when you're new and you're in the process of learning. And yet I really appreciate your candor and your vulnerability, and you just being really honest and about where you're at. And I think your background and education is really going to serve you And I also appreciate your courage. Like, you're going to go for it, man. I get it.
Thank you.
I know you are. And you're very new on the journey. And I think focused on education for the first couple of years is important so that you don't make costly mistakes. A lot of people don't realize that when you become a real estate investor, you are learning an entirely new profession that requires a lot of skill. So those first 2, 3, 4 years as an investor are very educational. So investing in systems like Fortune Builders or like other programs like Jerry Norton's and Nathan Payne's and just Sub2, those things are very useful because it speeds up the learning curve because you have structured education that's giving you the information. And you need to know a certain amount before you can start getting out there, or you're going to just get yourself into a world of hurt and trouble if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, so true.
Yeah. So thanks so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yes. Yeah. I'm getting to connect with you one-on-one. And
Yes.
it's just a pleasure. And I wish you well. And I look
Thank
forward
you.
to about your successes in the future.
Okay, appreciate you.
Bye, everybody. Happy weekend.
Bye-bye.